So hello good people of the internet, it is I, Tommy Kelly, and this is Adventures in Woo Woo. So welcome to another episode. I'm not sure how well this will come out, because I'm beginning to have a problem. And one of my problems is that I can't find anywhere that's quiet. And I can't find anywhere where I won't be disturbed. So I have to come out into fields. And even though I'm pretty much surrounded by fields, there's traffic just there. There's a building site behind me. It's just so hard to find somewhere where there isn't people. I often think how, years ago when people go, I went off to live in a cave. I was going, why did you live in a cave 2,000 years ago? Nothing was happening. Go and live in a cave now because the distractions are just ridiculous. I'm not sure I'd like to live in a cave though, because, it doesn't have Wi-Fi, it doesn't have video cameras, it doesn't have the internet. But apart from, joking aside and all that, I do find the attraction of getting away from everything. So I'm thinking seriously about doing something like one of those retreats where you just, you go and you just don't talk to people and people aren't allowed to talk to you. It's the hermit in me, it's the antisocial in me. It's probably more than likely the human hating in me. Anyway, in this episode, I'm going to talk a bit about what I believe magic, how magic works, why it works. And then I'm going to talk a bit about street photography, that me and my friend Enda went out on a trip to Dublin. And then, that's it. If you're a patron though, you'll get the study notes, which is another 20 minutes where we talk about Liver Null at the end of the podcast. So stick around. So I wanted to talk about this week is the whole idea of how I think magic works. And I mean, there's plenty of ideas and there's plenty of people have different ideas about what is the agency of magic or what is it the thing that makes it actually work. Going all from things like the spirit model, where it's spirits are making it happen, to, it's the ingredients themselves of magical kind of traits, such as in things like hoodoo. Other people think it's a psychological model, and to a large extent, today, and the last while, I've been pretty much in the psychological model the whole time. And it's a working hypothesis. I'm not sure if it's fully where I land ultimately, but it's where I am now. See, I don't think anyone, be they rationalist, magician, occultist, or just normal man on the street, would dispute the fact that what we believe about the world, or how we view the world, or what we think is true about the world, affects our reality. The difference between a chaos magic kind of view and, say, a rationalist view would be that rationalists would only think that you're just colouring the world, that you're seeing it through your own reality tunnel, that in a sense that you see things as you want to see them, but it doesn't change the intrinsic truth about reality, that it's just kind of you seeing things the way that your views, opinions and beliefs about the world make them, but it doesn't change reality. Whereas from a chaos magic point of view, while we agree with all that and believe that we all have our own reality tunnels and our beliefs, and no matter where you go, there you are, because you bring all that stuff with you, all your baggage, all the shadows, all that kind of thing. There's an extra bit in chaos magic which would suggest that not only does do our beliefs affect or colour the world, but we also change reality in a sense of changing other people, other circumstances and the world out there. You see, from my perspective, which is not really a full chaos magic perspective, I guess, it's just my opinion, I don't really think there is an out there. I don't think there is an ultimate kind of truth out there. And chaos magic does specifically say that nothing is true, therefore everything is permissible or everything is permitted. But if there's no out there, if it's just a stream of consciousness, if it's just Maya, if it's just a dream, if it's just a matrix, if it's just a simulation, or whatever metaphor we have for whatever we think this is, then our thoughts and our beliefs can have an effect on the world out there. It's the materialists who think that out there exists separate from them. But I don't. I think it's all within consciousness. We're in a field of consciousness, a focus of consciousness within a greater field of consciousness. So magic works because of the belief of the magician, And if we are consciousness, a point of consciousness within a greater consciousness, then by changing our consciousness, we are changing the connected consciousness that we all are abiding within, or we're all living within, or depending on how Gnostic you want to get, perhaps trapped within. So by changing who you are, how you behave, how you view the world, and getting rid of your shadow stuff, by changing, getting rid of your bad habits, or improving or aiming towards becoming a better person, and then changing your mind about your limiting beliefs. And then, because of all of those changes within you, the world around you starts to change. And not just because you have decided to look at things different. It's not that you've decided that I'm only going to see the good things about my spouse and therefore focus only on the good things and think that your spouse has changed when in effect she hasn't changed at all, he or she hasn't changed at all, or behaviour, it's just your opinion. Chaos Magic would suggest that changing your opinion changes them too, or changes circumstances in your favour or not your favour. So when we as Chaos Magicians say launch a sigil or work with a servitor or use a mantra or do some sort of say spell or a ritual or something, from my perspective what we're doing is changing our consciousness, or using these tools or these hacks or these implements, these magical items, to change our own consciousness, which in turn changes the consciousness of the universe or the field within. And all of the ingredients of these things are boosters, or just ways that we get more, power into our beliefs, as kind of like a booster pack towards our beliefs. I don't believe necessarily that the ingredients of a spell, say, are inherently magic. It's more that they make us feel more magical and put us in a magical place and make us feel like we're more powerful or more magic or wizardy or whatever it is. And of course this is nothing new, this is not a new idea. Like, going back even 100 years you had New Thought, which said that thoughts create reality, or thoughts create things. And going back and back, you can see that this idea has come up and down, and if you believe The Secret, then it's been hidden from us, which is not true. It's like it's always been about, and that kind of idea. Speaking of The Secret, then, people often ask then about Chaos Magic, how is it any different from, say, the Law of Attraction or something like that? And it's a good question, because it's something that I certainly asked when I came across Chaos Magic, because it felt different. There was a different kind of aura to it, and I didn't know if that was just aesthetics or not, or if that was just people taking the Law of Attraction and trying to make it a bit edgy, whatever. And what I kind of came up with in the end is that the Law of Attraction and The Secret and New Thought, mostly the Law of Attraction kind of stuff, is about getting stuff. So it would come under the kind of thing of low magic. It's about getting the stuff, getting the car, paying the mortgage, getting the boyfriend, the girlfriend, whatever it is, attracting material sense, or stuff in a material sense, or things. Whereas Chaos Magic, while it has that, also has this kind of ascension part of it, which is the high magic thing. It's the evolution of yourself. It's the ascension towards mastery of yourself. Soul evolution, becoming the master, becoming the ascended person, going up through the different stages, crossing the abyss, and becoming, the grand wizard in the end. The thing, at the end goal. And I think that's kind of separated from the Law of Attraction and Chaos Magic proper. Like I said at the beginning, it's just a working hypothesis. It's not something that I hold firmly onto, or something that I need to be true. It works, and that's why I use it, and I'm happy enough. And that's the great thing about Chaos Magic, is that it's belief as a tool, where you get to choose your beliefs, even believing that believing is magic. And maybe this time next year I'll have a completely different outlook, or in 10 years time, in 5 years time. And great, because Chaos Magic allows for that, and it allows for the possibility of all of these different ideas to work, or to manifest itself. The whole thing is that if it works, then it's good enough, or it's good, or it's true, in whatever we want true to be. And while thinking that beliefs is the agency of magic mightn't be as woo-woo as some of the other things, I think it's it's one that we can definitely see in action, and it's one that we can definitely go along with further than many of the other things, no matter what kind of background you have, or what sort of thinking you have, or what kind of mind you have. We definitely colour the world and change the world by what we believe. It's just to what extent that is. And that's going to be up to the individual to decide on that. But for me right now, I really do think that not only does changing my mind colour the world, it changes the world. So like I was saying last week, what I want to have on the show every week is one section of the show is something to do with art or creativity or those type of things. And just to not only encourage that myself, so that it gives me a project to do every week that involves something creative and artistic, but also hopefully in some way to encourage other people to be, creative, and artistic and that kind of thing. So this week I'm going to talk a bit about street photography and a recent outing I had with my friend Enda. So last Saturday myself and Enda got up early, much to the chagrin of Enda, who didn't really want to get up that early on Saturday morning, being that it's usually his lie-in day. But we did. We went up to Dublin and we just went around and got some photos. People who've been following the podcast or the blog for a while will know that I got a camera, a proper camera, for my 40th birthday, which is about a year and a half ago now. And it was kind of proper life-changing thing to get this. It was something that I originally got just for the likes of videoing stuff, for YouTube and stuff that I was doing at the time. And then it quickly moved into the photography thing, kind of sparked a fire within me, and I got really into it, in a large way. Not even just, taking pictures, but also getting into the history of it and the technicalities and all of that type of thing. And I really started, in a sense, almost obsessing about it in the best possible way. And one of the elements of photography that I really enjoy is street photography. And the idea behind that is that you just go out and onto the streets and take photos of, people or places or kind of interesting things. And there's a very steep learning curve on it, in a sense, in that you can you go through all the mistakes that everyone else who starts street photography does, the different things like taking photos that aren't really street photography, just people on the street or whatever. Because there is a kind of a thing about street photography, which is almost a bit like that old saying about porn, is I can't really tell you what it is, but I know it when I see it. But you can definitely tell when you're doing it wrong. And you see, if you go into a lot of the Facebook street photography groups and stuff, you can instantly see people who are just, like taking snapshots of like people crossing roads or these types of things. And there's more to it than that. There's a subtlety to that. There's more, it's not just taking random pictures of people on the street. There's you're trying to tell a story, or you're trying to, put something in a situation, or have a kind of a contrast between two things. So it's more than just walking down the street, snap, taking snapshots or whatever. And the good thing about myself and Enda going as a team on the street is that the first thing people would ask is, do you not end up getting the same photos? If you're walking around the streets together, do you not end up, photoing the same people? And we don't really most of the time. Like at the odd time we will photo the same thing, but we have very different views of our kind of tastes when it comes to what we like. And Enda is much more likes to see, the street, a person, but in situ of the street, what's surrounded by the actual, the circumstances of the street or thing going on. He likes the buildings, the room, if you're in a room or whatever. Whereas I'm much more interested in the character themselves, and I get closer into people, and I'm much more interested in the humanness apart from the actual street, if you want. Whereas for Enda, it's very much he needs to, or wants, or desires, or likes the stuff that's has the person and the surroundings or whatever. So even if we end up taking a photo of the same person, it always ends up as a very different photo because of our approach to it. my kind of approach and what I like is I'm into the people and the humanity of it, but there's a kind of it's almost as if it's a stolen shot out of someone's life. And I don't like when it's happy. I don't like when it's kind of frivolous, whatever. I like kind of a solemnness to it, or pictures that have a gravity to it, like there's a story, almost as if there's a sadness to it, or but definitely like it's all the kind of emotion to it, as if people have this sort of like a weight to them or whatever, which might be slightly depressing, but there's this kind of seriousness that comes with it that I really like. And I think I get an awful lot of that from my favourite photographer, who's Anton Corbijn, and he did an awful lot of music photography for magazines and album covers and stuff like that. You'd probably know him from, he did an awful lot of U2 stuff, Depeche Mode stuff, Metallica, all those type of things. So Tom Waits, Bruce Springsteen. So you definitely know some of his photos, whether or not you know he did them or not. And even though he's quite a funny character, and he doesn't, in a sense, doesn't take himself very seriously, his photos are very serious, and they're very solemn or whatever. And I like that, and that's something I try to bring to my street photography, where he's doing it in a kind of setup, kind of as band photography is, but I'm trying to bring that to a street kind of sensibility, if you want, as well. I also try to bring kind of cinematic quality to it, where the photos could be kind of like stills from a movie, which is kind of like, going back to, it's like the stolen moment, where you're kind of trying to get a piece of someone's story but hinting at the larger kind of outcome of their life, or the larger sphere of their life, or what's going on. It's just that moment that you've got from a bigger story. So like the still from a film is something that I like the idea of, because although you can get an awful lot of storytelling in that one still, there's the whole story, there's the whole rest of the film to it. I also like things where you have echoes, or you have things that line up with each other. Like there's this photo, which you can see that the man and the mannequin are kind of doing the same pose, and that's kind of interesting, and has this nice echo as well. Here's another one from Saturday, where you can see that the heads kind of line up, and they're similar in kind of look or whatever, enough that there's some kind of a nice symmetry to it or whatever, which I find very pleasing. But they can be hard to come across. You don't get an awful lot of them, because it just doesn't happen that kind of often. But when they do, they're really nice to find and to use. What I really like about street photography is it's almost like you're out hunting, like big game hunting, whatever, only you're hunting, art, you're hunting photos, you're hunting people, and and it really does feel like that in some ways, like it's out, like to the point that people, there's like YouTube channels of people doing street photography called Street Hunters, and it is a kind of a known thing, but it is something that it certainly feels like you're on the hunt, and when you get, a good kill or a good photograph, it feels it's very rewarding in that kind of way. But also, obviously, it has its dangers, if you want, because you can annoy people by taking photos. I certainly don't like my photo being taken, and if I came across someone taking a photo of me in the way I take other people, I can't say that I would have it wouldn't please me or whatever. I wouldn't, now knowing an awful lot about street photography, I wouldn't have an issue with it in that sense, but I prefer it not to happen. So that's always in the back of my mind, that I understand that people don't like it. And if someone ever says, and it happened on Saturday, someone said, "Could you take a photo of me?" And if there's any kind of altercation like that, just delete the photo. Even if it's a great photo, I just delete the photo, because it's just, I understand from their point of view that it is, in a sense, it's an invasion, and it's just easy to delete the photo. It's only photography, at the end of the day, it's not life or death. And I think that having the respect of, going into it, having the respect of people, or your respect for people, is quite healthy. And you see a lot of people who have this thing of that you take the photo and ask for, the permission later and all that kind of thing. It's hard to know, and the legality of it is a bit odd too as well, depending on who you ask. The thing that comes down to this is that if it's not legal, then the paparazzi would be all out of jobs. It's like kind of that thing. It comes down to this, and this is my understanding of it, is that if you can take a photo anywhere in public where a person is under no kind of idea that he's any privacy, that there's no kind of, if you're standing on the main street in a city, it's not a private area or whatever. But even the law into that can be that you can be standing on public land taking a photo into a private residence and stuff. I wouldn't do that now, but I think legally there is kind of precedence for that as well. I also don't like taking photos of children just because it seems weird and it's odd, and I wouldn't like it again, and that seems too much of a boundary to cross. Homeless people, or people, you know, mentally ill people, or anything, you know, kind of people who are, I don't know what's the correct word, you could exploit that way too easily, and you see it an awful lot in street photography, particularly homeless people, and I don't like that. You know, it is exploitative in some way. Some people say, you know, give them money or whatever as well, but it's still, you know, just give homeless people money and don't take photos of them. So a couple of tips if you are going out and doing street photography with someone else, and you don't want to get the same photos. If you have the same sort of sensibilities, you use different focal lengths on your camera. You know, so one can be a 35mm, or the other person can have a zoom. You know, one sticks with you know, like a 70-200, which is probably a bit much. I was using a 70-200 on Saturday, but like a 55-200, a smaller lens or a long lens, and one person uses, you know, like a wide angle lens and stuff like that. One person could just shoot in monochrome, another person could be shooting for color. So, you know, just try and shape it up or whatever, or have your rules that you go, whoever sees it first gets the shot, or whatever rules you want to, you know, get up around that kind of thing. Or just not worry if you get the same shot, if the two people get the same shot. Like, it's not, you know, it's meant to be fun, meant to be something to do, something to get out there. And if you end up with the same photo, like, it's not the end of the world. It's just a photo. We could all be good and move on from it, and, you know, just forget about it. It's just a photo. At the end of the day, it's just a photo. And the best thing, I think, is don't see it as competition if you're out with people, you know, like, to a point, like, have, you know, try to get good photos and, you know, show each other your photos and try and, you know, encourage each other on that, but don't be trying to win, because I think that can take an awful lot of the fun out of it anyway. Just to end, I'm just going to show the different photos that I got from the day. Again, I was trying to get it a bit more cinematic. There's some black and white, there's some color, all these kind of things. You know, I like them, I enjoy them. Not the best photos in the world by any stretch of means, but enjoyable, and it was a great day out, whatever. And I'll also include enders ones at the end as well, so the different ones will be labelled by the two different people. So, yeah, so get out and take some street photography. So that's the end of episode 2 of Adventures in Woo. I hope you enjoyed this one. There was no do magic this time, just because I ran out of time basically at the end of it. I'm just getting used to the whole scheduling of all of this, and the whole photography thing was running long anyway, so I still don't want these episodes to be massively long. I've already gone over the 20 minutes that I said it would be in episode 1. So thanks for having a watch, and I hope you enjoyed it. If you want to know more about me, then go to adventuresinwoobo.com, and all of the stuff is there. You'll get links to the 40 servants, to the Facebooks, to the social medias, to the Instagrams, to the Patreons, to all of the stuff as well. And if you would like to support me, then you can of course join the Patreon, and you get extended episodes of these podcasts along with a host of other things that you get, as well as, you know, the whole point of you get to support me doing these things so that I can up my game and continue to do them. So, good people of the internet, may you have the best beliefs about yourselves that you can possibly have. May your world be filled with goodness because of these beliefs, and may you go into the future feeling better and better about yourself and about life and about surroundings. So until next time, be well.